Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight we are on episode 190. And I'm just now realizing how far along we are, Ben. But anyway, tonight we thought the topic would be the top 10 recommended websites from Ben and I for bushcraft related material. And I mean, it's websites that we reference a fair amount or that we go on to before we go out into the woods, or just good websites. Some of them are going to be no-brainers. Some of them people probably know, maybe some don't. It's hard to say, but we figured we'd mention them anyway. Some are going, well, one for me I know specifically is kind of local. It's a Nova Scotia website, so anybody that's in Nova Scotia, it may be good for you, but I'm sure there's very similar websites in your area for this one, and some of them are literally like web forms, stores, stuff like that. I think we have a pretty good crop. I looked at the ones Ben sent me, I looked at the list I made up, and I think we're going to have a pretty good selection here, Ben. I do say so.
Yeah, you have the list. I'll just go along with it.
All right. So let's want to go one for one. Might as well talk about them that way. That way neither of us get too long-winded or too bored.
Sure thing, boss.
All right. So the first one I have up here for you, Ben, is... Let me swing this around. See if I did this right. There we go. How to start making your own gear.
Yeah, what was the website? Is that the actual name of the website, though? No.
Here, hold on. I might be able to fix this. I probably should have done this before we started going, but talk about this a little bit. I'll raise up the bar a little bit so people can see what the URL is. Or actually, I'll just say the URL. It's ripstopbytheroll.com. And then you can go into their blog section and there's the grid outline. And I'm going to include all of these in the comments, the ones that we're recommending there. So anybody that's listening out there, jump on our YouTube channel. You can actually grab any of the links that you want from there because it's probably going to be easier than trying to write down the links from us saying them anyway.
So one of the things, like, there's a bit of a theme with some of mine I sent you, is that a lot of them came from the same original time period. But Ripstop by the Roll is a place that sold a lot of gear for materials for you to make your own gear. So one of the sites I approached early on, trying to save some money or trying to get like custom made gear, was this one. So they provided Ripstop, which was really good for making hammocks, backpacks, little pouches, anything you want. Like, it's good. It's a good material, and they sell a few other materials too. So some ropes and what do you call webbing, stuff like that. There's also some handy information of how to use that product as you're scrolling through it. You know, it tells you a bit about sewing, some different practices, techniques, and stuff. So if you're trying to do your own stuff, it's a really good example of where you can get sort of some of the material. So I think if you go under, they have hardware and.
Yeah, they got some different headings here, but one of the big things I seen there, Ben, was they have kits, and that's the one that I have up here now. So somebody like me, I could just buy a kit and it's going to give me the majority of stuff I need to complete a project instead of me trying to figure it out. Because starting off with a lot of these things, sometimes it is easier to buy a kit, learn what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you like, what you don't like, what you need, what you don't need, blah, 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 blah. And then you can kind of start buying the stuff individually afterwards.
Yeah. There was another website I looked for. I don't think I ever found it. It was very similar. And I don't know if they're related or if maybe one just disappeared. But when I searched what I knew the title was, it no longer disappeared. But I used to spend a fair bit of time on these type of sites. And did I make all the gear? No. But it's
it
really
gives you ideas.
It does. And the other good thing is if you know how gear is made, when you get gear, you can kind of look at it and see is it made well? Did they take shortcuts? Did they single stitch or double stitch? Did they use good materials? You'll get a lot of this stuff from these type of sites. So you can kind of gauge, when you spend your hard-earned money, and we know our money's not going as far as it used to, that you're getting good bang for your buck, right? So definitely a good site for people to starting off, especially if you're looking at building or making anything for yourself. One of my dreams is to eventually make my own backpack.
Ooh, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm just adding the link to the description before I forget about it, and just saying hi there, Carl. We do see you on there, buddy. If I don't get to the comments as often as I do on other times, simply because I'm flipping through a lot of windows while we're doing this one, so I haven't forgotten about you. Just give us 2 seconds. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I'm wondering what our next topic is. It's one of yours, but
all right. So one for me. And I'm going to start off with the no-brainer ones. I don't really need to pull a website up for this one. It's one that I already taught you about, Ben. A big one that both of us use when we're going out to the woods, day adventure, multi-day adventure, hardly matters. Both of us, we're big on checking the weather. So any kind of local weather site, whether it be up here in our area, it's like weather.ca or Environment Canada. I use VentuSky a lot because it shows a lot of air currents. Storm Pulse, if there's a big storm coming, I can kind of track it and see where it's going to try and go, if it's going to interfere with my plans or anything like that. When the big hurricane came through, I was on Storm Pulse almost daily, trying to figure out how if I could get out in the woods or if I should stay in and stuff like that. But yeah, some sort of weather website is a good place to start because going in the woods and just winging it, it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I've done it. We've all done this before the internet was a little bit more accessible. I can remember back in the 90s when you were on dial-up and stuff like that. You know what? You just kind of listened to the radio. They had a rough guess at what the weather was, and I argue it was almost more accurate then, even though I know they have more technology and stuff now, but it seems like it changes more often. But yeah, some form of figuring out the weather for how long you're going to be out there. And it's a good idea to check the day before you're going to leave, as well as potentially the day after, depending if, you get waylaid or something like that. That gives you an extra day. And the day going in, if it rains or something like that, and you're going to be going down some old roads, you're going to have the possibility of maybe mud and a lot more puddles, just kind of get an idea of the entire time you're going out, not just, oh, you know what, I plan to be out in the woods from Saturday morning to Sunday morning, and just look at that one little cube, you know what I mean? Because getting in, you don't want to be walking in rain, and coming out, you don't really want to be walking out in rain or snow or sleet or ice storms or meteor showers or, whatever the case may be. But it's a good idea to kind of check the weather. So that was a big one up on my list. That is one of those no-brainers. I do understand people are probably rolling their eyes at me, but you know what? It is a very commonly overlooked thing for a lot of people that are new to bushcrafting, camping, just going out in the woods in general. You don't know how many people that have come back and said, oh, I went for a hike the other day. It was great for the first little bit, and then it started storming, and we got rained out, and we were 7 kilometers back in the woods, and we had to come back through all this rain, and like, why didn't you just check the weather before you went? Because even if you still want to do it, you can bring an umbrella.
Yeah, 100%. I tend to keep a trend and looking at the weather even like a few days before, just to see if I can have an idea of what the conditions will be like when I get there. Because if it's been raining for 2 or 3 days, you know that the ground's going to be soaked. And if it's been really hot, you're going to know it's going to be dry. It kind of gives you an idea of, can you have fires, what type of equipment you want to take. My favorite one, because you mentioned a bunch, is just the Weather Network. Seems to be, for me, as accurate or more accurate than the rest of them. And make sure you're looking for your area. A lot of people just choose like a close community, or they're like, oh, I'm in Nova Scotia. Halifax is good enough. Well, no, if you're in, say, Elmsdale, then Halifax may not be the same weather as Elmsdale, right? Like, so choose local. And that's why often you'll meet people and they'll be like, oh, I seen the weather, it's going to be a lot of rain. And then you look at yours and it's not. Well, they're looking for their community. Your community may not be the same one. And it may expect a bit more rain a little further east or west. Just know these things.
All good points. But yeah, weather. So the next one's for you, Ben, if you're good to keep jumbling along, because anybody that's listening to us, we do have 10 sites each, and then we have some gimmies. So we actually compiled quite a list here, so we're not going to take a whole lot of time on each one. Please, once again.
Really get you 10?
What's that?
Did I really get you all 10?
I'm sure we can get to it. But I do encourage anybody, especially our listeners that don't watch our live shows, jump on the YouTube channel, throw in Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures, look for episode 190. All the links are going to be available down in the description. That way, if you hear something that piques your interest, you don't got to try and remember some sort of insane URL. But the next one I have up for you, Ben, this looks like dreamhammock.info.
Yes, Dream Hammocks. So, early in my career, so these guys were originally, and I think they may still be, a cottage industry. Like it's a small company that make some really nice, cool hammocks. I feel like the price is somewhat reasonable when you look at what it is, but they had a lot of innovation, and they worked with a couple of other companies that are probably ones that'll come up later. So again, I kind of mentioned that some of these were all related to a similar time frame in my early career. These were some of the ones that really gave me a lot of information. So Dream Hammocks, is a place where you can go get hammocks and some hammock related accessories, like maybe some underquilts. I think you can get there and stuff like that. But definitely a solid choice when you're looking at hammocks and hammock information. So they had some pretty cool ones out there over the years, and they're constantly evolving and changing. So they had some good stuff. So if you're looking for something, you don't want the same hammock that absolutely everyone else has. So you don't want necessarily a Hennessy or a Blackbird or one of the ones that everyone seems to be talking about. These are ones that I think not everyone's going to have, but you probably would never regret having. So,
I mean, any hammock is good. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I this is one of the websites I haven't had a lot of chance to actually look through after we chatted about it. But I did take a quick glance, and like you said, what I liked about it, basically custom hammocks. You know, they're kind of more unique than some of the other stuff that, well, I own for sure, seeing I only own 2 hammocks. But even somebody that's pretty seasoned in hammocks like yourself, Ben, you said that there's some options in there you're probably just not going to see around other places.
Honestly, they were my dream hammock. If I could just, I discovered
name drop.
But no, like after I got the ones I have, I kind of looked at them and I said, if I was to start again, if I was to start fresh, there's probably 3 hammocks out there that I would really have liked to have bought. They were in the top 3. The other one we've talked about before, I think, was put out by Clark. It was the Vortex, which was a 2-person hammock, like a proper 2-person, where they have 2 like beds with a storage section in between. And the other one would have been a close tie between a Hennessy bottom entry or the Blackbird.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are pretty cool. That being said, there is another company coming up that has made hammocks that we can chat about, but that's not what the thing was for.
All right. So moving on from there, the next one I have up here, and this is one I actually used quite a bit starting off. I love this website. It's called animatedknots.com. And I'm a big person, like I've said before, I'm with the fire service. I worked with natural resources once upon a time. We used a lot of knots in both of these services. Working around the helicopters, we had to know some knots. Definitely any high angle rescue, we need to know knots. Just tying equipment off, you have to know knots. And I'm a visual learner. I can read about it in a book and look at the little drawings and follow the arrows, and it always seems like I end up just tying myself up. What I really like about this website is you can pick a knot or search for a knot if you happen to know it. And I'm just going to pick the knot. Well, knot of the day is not that great. But let's go with, that's a tie-off that puts a loop on the end of it. But, I mean, you can clearly see there. What's that?
It's a Bramwell's place, yeah. Amsteel, Bramwell's place. I've done those.
So you can actually see that it shows you, like it walks you along on how to make these knots. It's a visual representation. I loved it because it was a great way for me to kind of learn a lot of knots that I wasn't really familiar with. Once again, being a visual learner, it was really easy to follow. I could get a junk of rope and I could go along with it, and I figured out a lot of good knots. Now, I did try a ton of knots from this website. Didn't save all of them to my repertoire, so to say, but I did pick out the ones I liked. I'd pick a few, I'd go out, try the knots, see if they had some use to me, and the ones that I really liked and used a lot, I remembered those. And now I'm down to maybe 10 knots I use almost every time I go out, and they all serve a specific function that I really enjoy. But the big thing about this site was it's very visual, so people like me, visual learners, you can kind of follow along. All you need is a junk of rope in the internet. You know what I mean? And you're good to go.
I think I've used the same site in the past or a very similar site, and having a good location. There's some apps that do the similar thing, and they may have an app, but there's definitely apps that do very similar things that is worth having that on your phone. Because you never when you get out and you say, man, there's a cool knot that could do this task or whatever. Or how can I do a knot that's going to, not bind and leave me without my rope? So yeah, no. That's a very good choice.
All right, Ben. So next up for you, much related to like your previous topic, this is hammockforms.net. And actually, once you sent me the link, I'm like, I didn't know about this one. And I started wandering around on it at work and during my breaks. And it's actually a lot of information here. I did include 1 or 2 forms on my links as well, but this was one I didn't know about, and there's a lot of good information here.
So the other 2 that we had actually stemmed from this one originally. So before I kind of joined, say, Nova Scotia Bushcraft, I was really heavily into it, Hammock Forms, and it actually was one of my best and worst experiences on the internet. It does tend to get a bit clicky in there. They are pretty cool. I think they still send me an email for my birthday. I had an account in there. There is a ton of cool stuff in there, though. So many people, very eager to share their knowledge and stuff, and they actually have a lot of links to other companies. And some of the other companies that I mentioned already have a presence on this site, and they actually get in and they discuss things and they talk about their products and they work with people. So Dream Hammocks, I think, had a strong relationship in there for a while. There's another company coming up, I think, called Dutchware, which we'll talk about. They had a strong relationship with that. So if you're looking for information, there's a lot of stuff in there on ultralight camping. There's a lot of stuff on there on how to set up your hammocks and all that, but there's so much more because it's guys that are outdoors enthusiasts that are using hammocks. But honestly, you'll get almost as much stuff that's not hammock related in there as you will that is hammock related. So,
But that's just kind of the nature of web forms in general. So,
yeah. So it is definitely worth checking out. With any form, any group, any platform, just realize that there is the limitation, and it's only as good as the people that are on there. And so occasionally you will get the people that but you'll get a ton. I mean, the majority of people on there are awesome. So don't let one or two people spoil your experience, because I guarantee you can learn a lot on sites like that. And that's not the only form. That's just one that I found extremely helpful early on, and I thought it might help a lot of other people.
yeah, like I said, I appreciated the galleries and pictures. Like, I like stories and pictures and seeing stuff. That form is full of them.
There's trip reports in there, and I don't know if they've kept it up. Like, I haven't been on it in a few months, but it was one I used a ton, and a lot of people had trip reports, and you could go in and look, and they'd say, look, this week I went to Tasmania, and I was back there for 3 days, and I did this, and I did that, and they have pictures, and they show you their setups, and it's just pretty awesome. So, yeah, check it out.
Okay, so the next one for me, this is a big one I still use to this day. And unfortunately, it cut some of the left off here. But this is called northernbushcraft.com. And the big thing I like for this one, it is a little exclusive to Canada. I apologize. But I'm sure there's similar websites in different countries. But what this one does is what you can see here on the left, specifically to like our provinces and whatnot. You can see the edible berries, plants, and mushrooms for the area. And I really like the way this website lays it out. I really wish it would give a little better thing here. If I close this, is this going to screw this all up? Does that look better or worse, Ben? It made no difference whatsoever. What if I take it from this side? Still absolutely no better. Anyway, you can trust me on this. If you go to the northernbushcraft.com, it's going to have the provinces listed for Canada. It's going to have the mushrooms, the plants, and berries that are edible here. It has further reading. You can get books. But I like the fact that, like, for instance, cattail. If I click on cattail, it'll give you a lot of the descriptions of it. It gives you pictures. It tells you what it looks like in the different seasons. It tells you what part of the plant is edible or has medicinal uses, how you can prepare it, what to expect. It's just really good that way to get... kind of get you going, you know what I mean? To get you started and get you on the right track. Do I take it as the holy gospel? Absolutely not. I mean, it's a great reference. I try to do a little of my own research. Ultimately, before I would trust a mushroom or something like that, or a berry that I'm unfamiliar with, I'm going to ask somebody that knows more than me. But it's a good place to start, you know what I mean? You can do some cross-referencing, and if you're really brave and you're really confident, I mean, I guess you can go down that road. I'm still a big believer in let somebody that knows more than you kind of teach you when it comes to things that you may potentially only ever eat once. But I like the plants. You know what I mean? I tend to avoid mushrooms almost exclusively because, all mushrooms are edible. Some are only edible once, and that's the end of that. But they're a little more trickier. Plants are a little bit more forgiving because... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so what you're trying to tell me, I just want to make either find somebody who's way smarter than you that knows the difference, or someone who's not smarter than you that can test it out for you.
Way smarter or way dumber. You got to pick one of the two ends of the scale there. That's for sure. But anyway, yeah, great website. I'm sure there's other websites that are very similar in other countries. I strongly recommend that you jump on your favorite search engine there and just type in, your location, wild edibles, or medicinal plants, plant identification with your country, something like that. There's tons of good websites. I found them for the US. I found them for other countries. I know they're out there. This just happens to be the one from my area, and I use it faithfully, probably a couple times a year. I'm hanging from a Dutchware gear right now. So this is Carl hanging from a Dutchware gear right now. I bought their whoopee slings based on both of you talking about whoopee slings. Whoopee slings are amazing, Carl. What do you think, man? Is that not just the bee's knees when it comes to putting up a hammock?
I haven't found anything better yet, personally.
Oh, man. Since you put me on to whoopee slings, bud, I'm hooked. There's no other way. The ropes were just terrible. Not terrible, but not as convenient. Let's go with that.
I tried the UCRs. People said they're way better. They're half the weight. Work just as well. I ripped them off. I even increased the berry length, thinking it would help. No, whoopee sling all the way. I will take the extra couple of grams every time.
And it's only a couple of grams. I mean, seeing I'm carrying a 50-pound pack anyway, what's that?
Yeah, which is the joke. Anyone who doesn't know, me and Robert, we have tried ultralight, and we have realized that we are way more stubborn and would much rather carry the extra weight than give up on a convenience to save a few grams. It's not going to happen. It's a 50-pound pack. I don't care what you're doing.
And to be fair, that's just our kind of style, too. We're not usually walking more than, like 20, 30 kilometers is a nice long trip for us. We're not these ultralight guys that are going, like, across the Appalachian Trail or something. We tend to keep ours. We can usually walk out in a day, 2 days, something like that.
But honestly, I'm that stubborn that I don't care what I have. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, Carl says it's so much easier to get a good hang. And that was my takeaway from it too, Carl. Whoopee slings, it doesn't matter where you are. You adjust them on the fly. You get a good hang. As we're with the rope set up ahead, you're constantly adjusting them on the trees. Then you have to adjust your straps. You'd adjust it too much, you're back to square one. Eventually you lay on the ground. You use the hammock as a tarp, and things are great. But I digress.
Whoopee slings made it a hammock before it was just a weird tarp.
What? No, I'm dead serious. At one point when I first started my hammock camping, there was at one point where I got frustrated enough with trying to set this thing up and get a good hang. I had one side too high, one side too low. After like 4 attempts, I just said, screw it. I put my stuff on the ground. I literally just stuck a couple sticks under the hammock, said, yeah, it's over me. Great, and went to sleep.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I could help you with that, buddy.
So, next up on the list, and we already mentioned it. Nope, not our stats, but Dutchware.
Dutchware. So, again, same thing. Hammock Forms is how I discovered this particular one. So, find a good form and you're going to get a ton of information. I just a slide in here. Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures will give you a ton of information to find these types of sites. It's sort of like this particular podcast right now.
Yeah, right?
Shameless plug. Totally shameless. This guy started out with a couple of clips, and I watched them grow from that to, I just recently heard, I seen a web thing on the web that they bought Clark Hammocks. So,
oh, nice.
This is an up-and-coming company, but they've been up and coming for quite a few years. Like, I don't know, they're probably 15, 20 years old now. But they started with the little tiny titanium clips, and they made these little clips.
I was going to say they were S-beaners, weren't they? That's what they started with, was like the little S-beaners? Something
like that. It was little clips that went on your whippy slings that you could hook your underquilts and stuff to, and help hook your hammock to your whoopee sling really quickly. So they were really cute. And I think they weighed like a gram each. They've since made some more. They had like the alien shaped one. Some of them, I don't know if they copied someone else or someone else copied them, but Dutchware has been around for a while now. And they sell a lot of other things. I think you can see some like spreader bars there.
Yep.
They sell some hammocks.
They do. They have a good end tarps and some other stuff. I've noticed their website has grown quite a bit in size now.
Oh, it's amazing what they've done. And like I said, I think the guy that did it, I watched some of his early videos and stuff. I see underquilts in there, everything. He he was extremely helpful on the forum for years. I assume he still is, but I don't know. Like I said, it's been a while. Uh, but man, solid group of people that supported him for years. And I can remember seeing people like, oh, I got an envelope of goodies from Dutchware, and it's like $25 for these 2 little clips. But like those clips made your life so much easier. Yeah, they were literally worth their weight in gold to these guys, because they didn't spend quite gold money, but it was approaching it. And they were happy for it, so they're not complaining. So check it out. I'm sure you'll find gear that you want there. And if you're looking for like little stocking stuffers and something for somebody that is into bushcrafting, hard to go wrong.
So, Real Big Monkey, Dave's joining us here. Dutchware carries a tripod, pot hanger device I invented. Well, there you go. We have the inventor. What's the name of it there, Dave? If I can find it, I'll try and pull it up and let everybody see it for you. Hopefully he heard me there. I noticed our viewer count went down. I don't know if that's just a glitch in our thing or if they dropped off. But anyway, if he's still there, let me know, Dave. I'm going to see if I can bring it up, and we'll give you a shout out for that. While he's looking for that, my next website, a real basic one. It's another one of those no-brainers, but I'm going to throw it in here because, once again, it's another one of those very commonly missed ones. Some sort of mapping website. Google Maps is what I use just because it's easy for this area, but you can use Bing Maps, you can use MapSource if that's your thing, like whatever your mapping software happens to be, or website or app or whatever, something to see what you're getting into, you know what I mean? It's, you don't want to go in blind, although that can be fun, but if you're going in any amount of distance, you potentially want to see what you're getting into, and in stories we've told before, they're not the end-all to be-all, because Mel and I went looking for a lake that no longer existed, and we've told that story 100 times, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but it's definitely good to get an idea of what you're getting into, but check the map dates. The one we looked at was like 4 or 5 years old, and it had all gone away by then, and, shame on me. I should have cross-referenced it with a few other sites.
So just because I have to do it, nobody uses Bing for anything. That's not a thing. Via GPS, the Backroad map book has a website that's really good. All Trails is another pretty good one that I've been using, and there's another one that's sort of like All Trails. There are some awesome mapping programs out there. Some of them definitely allow you to download maps so you don't have to have data all the time, and you can get them onto your phone. A good mapping program is going to give you a lot of information, where things are, how to get around. So with some of these things that I've mentioned, I got 3 or 4. I also run a Polaris ride command. It's really good for driving. It kind of gives you a lot of the back roads, especially in Nova Scotia and Eastern Canada. It seems extremely good. So just some ones to hint at. Again, sorry, Robert, but does anyone use Bing for anything? Is it still a thing?
You know what? It's still out there. It does get used a little bit. And I'm not going to pick on any mapping website. I don't use Bing either, to be perfectly honest. But some people out there like it. I'm not here to judge.
I know. I looked it up one time that Bing, because it was a search engine, for anyone who doesn't know this, the most searched thing on Bing is Google.
That's kind of funny, but... All right. Where am I at? It's actually yours. So, let's see here. And I know this was one you had there. It's not the last one you just sent me there, Ben, but this is one I had already opened up for you. Okay. It's going to log into my account, so hopefully that's not too bad. But it's the old Reddit machine.
Reddit. Okay. This might be a surprise to some people. I am on Reddit. Please don't look for me. I am on Reddit, and I do go on there because of a lot of the apps and websites you can find literally everything or anything on Reddit. So not necessarily always the most family-friendly one, but if you're willing to filter through, you can find almost anything in there, and you can find really good local groups. You can actually make friendships through there. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. So if you have a question you can't find an answer anywhere else, you throw it on Reddit, and I guarantee you someone will give you an answer. You do have to filter through it, but it is a great source of information. You can find a lot of groups. Type in things like bushcrafting, backwoods camping, camping buddies, things like that.
I was going to say, if you throw in camping, literally out of the first 5 searches, 4 of them were not work safe.
So do be careful with that particular one if you're going to use it, but I found it to be invaluable for the amount of information you can come from it. Unfortunately, sometimes with good information comes risk. So have the ability to filter through the information you do get and identify, is this good information? And is this something that you're willing to share with somebody? But no, Reddit has a ton of stuff in there. Just be careful with, how you use it. You can turn on some filters and stuff when you get in there saying you don't want to see non-safe for work stuff. If that's what you don't want to see, definitely turn those things on. And then I can't guarantee you it's still going to be perfect, but you are going to get rid of the majority of that stuff. But yeah, you can find all kinds of information. I've found information on there, how to fix cars, what are some common problems with vehicles, for example, but also like if you want information on any type of gear, guaranteed, if you can't find it anywhere else, somebody on Reddit has used it and will give you their opinion.
All right, I think, just chatting here in the comments while you were talking there, Ben, I think we found the product that Dave might have helped or designed here. So
I think I know this story, so when you pull it up. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So Dave, Dave can share his story in the comments there. I'm not going to speculate at all, but as the story goes, that's in the comment. What he was saying there is he gave the design to a guy in Georgia, and Dutchware bought him out. So they bought the design, of course, once they bought that company out. So, but that's kind of neat. You know what I mean? And just want to say hi to everybody else that's out there. I see RM Shoots is there. I did see your comment. The reason I didn't mention it is because one of the websites I'm going to talk about later directly corresponds to that. And we got Red Sand Adventures from PEI joining us as well.
Awesome. You guys are getting to be regulars.
Yeah, always love to have the regulars. All right, so where are we on this list? Reddit. So the next one's mine. So the next one that I have up here, this is a form that I used when I was getting into bushcrafting, and it's Bushcraft USA. So bushcraftusa.com/form. Much like your Hammock form there, I don't know why it's caused me grief tonight not showing the whole website. But anyway, much like your website with the hammocks. Oh, wait, I can probably do this. Does this work? Ah, there we go. Now we got some stuff going. So, this is just general good bushcrafting information. Believe it or not, a link to Bushcraft Adventures was mentioned on here. And back in our early days when I was trying to see how popular our name and stuff had gotten, that's how I found this website. And I've been following it ever since. There's great information on there. Real great group of people that chat. Once again, you can get the odd person that maybe is not as great as the others, but that's just the way web forms go. They have a ton of information. They have some DIYs, how-tos. They have a buy-sell trade section, so if you're in the areas, you can see if you can pick some stuff up. They have stories, develop your skills, talk about gear, not just bushcrafting. They do archery, firearms, a few other things as well. It's a great website for a vast majority of information.
Yep.
All right, so after that one, the one I have for you, Ben, is the one you just sent me. And this is going to be, no, let me go over to the full browser. That seemed to work better. So this is Myers Bushcraft.
Yeah. So Myers is a pretty well-known bushcrafter. He's got some stuff, I think they're probably on like, I know I found him on YouTube, but I think it may also be on like Amazon and BBC and stuff like that. So he has a lot of shows. He's a very extremely knowledgeable fellow, and he talks about a ton of stuff, wood lore, bushcrafting, that kind of stuff. He does sell some products on here, and he does do some courses. Like you can actually go on courses. He has books, but solid information. And I think one time I seen people comparing them to like Bear Grylls and what's the other one? The Canadian Les Trab.
Bushcraft.
Right. I've heard the three of them compared before, and someone pointed out something that, like, Ray Mears is a little chubbier, and you should always trust a chubby bushcrafter. And Robert will back me up on this 100%.
I've used this teaching courses. Follow a fat guy into the woods, you won't starve. Either he has food, he will lead you to food, or he will become the food. But you will never starve.
But yeah, don't trust the skinny survivalist. They're not doing well. No, that's just me joking. But this is a man who's traveled around the world, met with people from around the world, and learned their skills and stuff, and is more than happy to share it. So I recommend him as someone to check out. If I was to look at one of these professional, mainstream bushcrafters, that's the one I would choose to follow. If I had to go in the woods with any of those three guys, I would go with Ray Mears.
Like I said, you're not going to go hungry. That's all I can say. Funny enough, Dave actually found us over on Bushcraft USA. So you know what? Small world, right? I found Bushcraft USA from Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures, went the other way.
And I've been following Dave for years on YouTube. So.
And you know what? I met Dave simply from this. So everything comes full cycle eventually. All right. Where are we at? That was Ray Mears. And Reddit's done. Next up is... actually got to do this. So the next one that I have here, it's called Bushcraft Buddy. And one of the things I love about this website is the stories. And I mean, they do a little bit on skills and stuff like that, as you can see from the website. Not knocking that at all. But one of the big things I loved from this website was the survival stories or the bushcrafting stories or just the stories in general. And they have quite a few of them. I thought they were well written. And they're just interesting. A lot of times at night when I had a tablet before I dropped it and smashed it, I would lay in bed and this is the kind of stuff I would read. You know what I mean? You can learn from other people's mistakes. I say this a lot when we're talking on here. I say that a lot as an instructor for firefighting. I say that a lot as an instructor for firearms. I say there's a lot as an instructor for motorcycle training and a few other things I do. Learn from other people's mistakes. It's not that they did the mistake and you should ridicule them for it. It's they accepted the mistake and they're trying to help other people from making the same mistakes. Like, how did these people get into the survival situations and what to look out for and stuff like that. You can learn a lot by what went wrong for somebody else, providing they make it back enough to tell the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was it my favorite expression for that is learn from others' mistakes because you never live long enough to make them all yourself.
Yeah, that's a super good point. Let's see. So what's your next one there, Ben? I don't have any more links for you, buddy, but you said you had a few more.
There's a few that I thought we should just throw out there that are just really common ones that I would like to throw. And I think we can kind of group them together. We don't have to throw them up. Here in Canada is MEC, REI in the States. These are big companies, but they sell a ton of gear. And I would throw in there with them Amazon, Canadian Tire, and Atmosphere. So that's like 5 that I threw out quickly. But when I'm looking for products, those are sites that I'm almost religiously going to.
I use that quite a bit.
Yeah, Cabela's is in it too. But I think for both me and you, Robert, Amazon is almost our first go-to.
Yeah, and I had Amazon on my list too. Yeah. But Amazon's a big one. MEC's a big one. Canadian Tire. Like you said, that's another big one. You know what? I don't use Walmart much. I was going to throw Walmart into that, but I very rarely buy a lot of stuff from Walmart. Not that I have anything against them. I don't know. I find the selection is a little limited when it comes to bushcrafting. Great camping stuff, don't get me wrong. It's just, it's not that they don't have it. It's not as specialized as I want it to be, if that makes any kind of sense.
So with Walmart, if we want to talk and not trying to bash them, again, we have no quarrel with you, Walmart. Please don't come after us. You'll lose every time. But Walmart's website isn't the best. And so when you go on there, you get a lot of second and third party sellers. And so it's a lot of filtering to go through that because some of that stuff, the prices are all over the wall. Some of them really good, some of them really bad. It takes a lot of effort on my part to sort of filter through it all. And it doesn't really tell you what's in the stores necessarily. Although, for example, I have these Plano containers that I love, you can look up and find some of this stuff at the store, and I have used it to track stuff because they were really hard to get. They're only in a few of the stores for short periods of time, and I managed to get all the ones I needed, and by using that. So yes, Walmart, it's not a bad one, but it's not one of my go-tos because it's their website could use some work.
Well, that was kind of my problem with Walmart too. At this point, like, I'll go online, I look, they say they have it in stock, I'll try and buy something. You find out it's a third-party seller, Walmart has nothing to do with them, you have no guarantee if you're going to get anything. It got a little complicated for me, so I tend to go into the store, see what they got, and just do my shopping that way.
But those Plano boxes that I mentioned, I think you've probably seen them. I know Chris on here, he's seen them. He has one. I was getting them at the Bridgewater store in Nova Scotia. They were going for $25, I think, and $35. $25 for the small one, $35 for the big one, I think it was. I'm seeing them on Amazon for $150 and $100. So at that point, I actually could have bought every one they had, resold them, and made a good profit.
You should have.
I didn't want to go through that hassle, to be honest with you.
I don't blame you. And a lot of times, a lot of people come up with the same kind of, and I'm going to say scheme, simply because it's kind of what it is, but there's a lot of effort involved in that. Some people do it and they make good money, but it's a lot of committed effort.
Yeah.
So the next one I have up here, it's, where's it at? Full browser. So this is the website is primalsurvivor.net. And under primalsurvivor.net, something I use pretty regularly is the emergency preparedness calculator. So you get like MRE date code calculators, rainwater harvesting calculators, which we were doing during the storm. A big one I use is the what size generator do I need, and it'll give you a rough idea. Once again, when the storm rolled through, this was a big thing. Emergency water storage calculator, emergency food storage calculator. They have several other calculators, how-tos, a bunch of information, but it was the calculators that I keep coming back to for this website. That was a big thing for me, but not to take away from anything else that's on this website. It's amazing what they got on there. It's definitely good to lay down if you're, you got a little insomnia or something like that, and just flip through the website. You'll be surprised what you find. I still go on there and still find sections I never even knew that were on that website. It seems massive for whatever reason. Let's see. RM Shoots. My favorite item from them is a Skarma. To me, close to the be-all, end-all knife, if there is such a thing. And I'd rather be outside. Welcome to the show, bud. I waterproofed one, threw it in the lake, and left it for a couple hours, and it was perfectly dry.
That's the Plano containers?
Yep.
So what we did, these Plano, I think they're Sportsman, is the series they're called. They've got a groove all the way around them that the main container fits into the cover on, and you take a piece of weather stripping, and you stick in there, and you close it up, and you can throw it out in the lake, and it'll float. Splash. So I've got 2 of the big ones, I think it is now, and I got 3 or 4 of the small ones. And the small ones fit well in a canoe or easily be strapped on the back of an ATV or something. And the big one fits well in my SUV across the back. And I don't know, it's pretty big. I think like the big one's like 120 liters, and the small ones are like 50 liters.
That's quite a bit.
And they kind of interlink. The big one has a set of small wheels in it, so you can drag it over like floors and stuff. I wouldn't drag it through a lot of dirt. Really sturdy, good quality product. Like I said, the price, it's hard to beat what Walmart was selling it for, and it actually sells for quite a bit more at other establishments. So keep an eye out for it. Good stuff can be found anywhere. Just keep your eye open and be open to thinking outside of the box for a lot of stuff. Don't get trapped into thinking it has to be used for one thing.
Okay, just flipping through our list here. Do you got any other websites you wanted to mention there, Ben? I'm down to my last 1 or 2 myself, to be honest with you.
You can throw yours up. All
right, once again, this is a more rural, or not rural, a local website. And this is kind of coming back to RM's original comment there. And I use this one a fair bit. It's the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables website. So for us here, it's novascotia.ca/NATR. And under this, I will look at hunting regulations if I happen to be out in the woods during hunting seasons or know when the hunting seasons are, what I should do while I'm out there. There is a section on here in survival. There's a section in here on forestry. Forest protection has some stuff on fire and things like that. Hunting, trapping, and shooting ranges. If you're going to be in areas where they are, you can kind of see some stuff from there. It's just got a lot of good provincial regulations, policies, and things like that that are going to be a kind of, I don't want to say concern, but you should know this information going into the woods when you're going to be around it. So if I'm going somewhere I'm not 100% familiar with, I will jump onto that website. I'll look for the area, find out what deer management zone it's in and stuff like that. Find out when people are hunting, how they're hunting, what the season's in, all that good stuff. And that way I just don't get caught off guard more than anything.
Actually, that dovetails into something that I had been kind of thinking about before you threw it up. So any province's local regulations, and usually there's a site on, there's places on there where you can find it where you can camp, where you can hunt, where you can fish, where you can hike, where you can do all these things. It tells you what you can use crown land for, what you can use, what's the word? Protect it. There's different words on it for your area, right? But and any piece of land, if you want to know what you can do with it, it's going to give you a really good idea. It's going to tell you what you need to do in that area to use it. Like, do you need permits? Do you need to pay fees? Do you need to carry certain supplies? So one province might require you to carry a compass and a map if you're going in certain areas. So just know these things, right? So yeah, local government websites that have, information on how to use natural resources. So that's a really good one there, Mr. Robert.
Unmute my mic. Sorry about that, folks. I was talking for a second and forgot to unmute my mic. If you hear me go dead every now and then or my mic go dead, it's because I am at the somewhere between middle to tail end of a cold, and every now and then I have to sneeze or cough, and I don't want to do that into the mic. But anyway, and I only have one more website left because you had mentioned Amazon. The last one I got left here, it kind of fits into those categories, so I'm not going to bother bringing it up, is Pinterest. Pinterest is a website I didn't use a whole lot simply because I didn't want to sign up for it, and I thought it was kind of, I'm going to admit, I thought it was kind of hokey. But once I finally did sign up for it, there's a lot of great craft ideas on there. It can be a little tricky to navigate and figure out. That was another big turnoff for me. But if you have the dedication, you jump in there, sign up for an account, make a spam account. That's what I have. I have an account that I sign up for stuff that I don't want to be bombarded with emails for. And I just sign up through that, and I go in there and I look, and I get some really great ideas on how projects like I can start. And I guess I am going to pull it up here. Like one I happen to look at here is like DIY bushcraft equipment. And it does give you some, some ideas on how to do some things. Bending a pipe around a can. I would not have thought to use a can for bending a pipe, but it would work fine. It kind of sparks the creative juices in your own head to get going more than anything.
No, that's a really good one. I've used it in the past. The biggest complaint I have had with it is sometimes the links don't bring you where you think it should go.
And that's what I mean. The website is a little disorienting.
Yeah. But it's great for coming up with ideas because you can scroll through it. I have a Pinterest account. I haven't used it much lately, but I've definitely used it in the past, and it definitely has its points. Sort of similar line, probably my last one, TickTock.
TickTock, yes, that's another good one. Honestly,
I've been finding myself using TickTock quite a bit, and if you want to find information similar to Reddit and Pinterest. But more like Pinterest, it's generally pretty safe. So more family friendly than maybe the other one. But you can type in that you're looking into, say, foraging. So that's one of the things I looked for on there. And I found a ton of really helpful people who go in looking for mushrooms, for different types of plants. They fully explain what you're looking for, how to identify good ones versus bad ones, how to cook it. There's people in there that talk to you how to make shelter, how to make fire. There's a bunch of survivalists, bushcrafters, hikers, fishers. There's a lot of people in there that will share a ton of information with you. So if that's something you're into, and the beauty is, unlike me and Robert, everything is in like 3-minute clips.
Yeah. Not as long-winded.
Yeah. So you get a lot of information in a very short period of time. And if you have a really short attention span, maybe that's better for you than us.
Well, that is kind of the age we're in. With internet being so popular and so easily accessible, studies have proven people's attention spans have actually shrunk. They want information faster, almost being bombarded by it at this point. And it's even more so with the younger generations and stuff like that. So it's a perfect outlet to get that kind of information. There's one comment from the side here I want to pull in just because it's super interesting. So Red Sand Adventures, a little off topic, but PEI had a deer today. It swam over. Unfortunately, the deer didn't make it, but it promptly got hit by a vehicle and perished. But kind of interesting. Not a lot of people know that. PEI doesn't natively have deer. So, tidbit of information.
But by no means, that is interesting. That was one of the questions with like in Newfoundland, coyotes were never there, and some people say could they have swam there, and that is a possibility. Not a likelihood, but a possibility.
Could have walked over when the ice was frozen too, like maybe swam short distances between ice flows, or came up through Labrador. I don't know, but
doesn't freeze that much. Freezes near the shores.
I think you'll find it was a lot like Nova Scotia. They were probably introduced.
Quite possibly. But they say like Cape Breton too. Like some of the animals that got over there would have swam over the Canso Causeway before it was fully joined, right? Much shorter distance though. I mean, you can see PEI from Nova Scotia.
Oh yeah, you can definitely go down to the water. Like honestly, if you go down to the beach and just look across, you can see PEI pretty easily.
Yeah.
So
it's not ridiculously far. So, by no means an exhaustive list of all the websites you should or potentially could find.
Oh, absolutely not. Our list actually came out to be 17, and that's because we combined a lot of them down. We probably had more like 25, 30 when it was all said and done. Yeah. So we did shorten it a little bit there, so I'm sorry, folks, if you feel a little ripped off and there's only 17. But we did combine things like Amazon in with Walmart, Canadian Tire, and all that good stuff. And there's some honorable mentions that we said right from the get-go we weren't really going to throw out there because, well, we're on these mediums. And YouTube being a huge one. I mean, come watch our podcast. We're a wealth of information, or you can just laugh at our funny faces, whatever the case may be. But YouTube, great site, some really awesome people out there that got good channels. Like, just joining us here today. Oh, I see Steve joined us. Sorry, bud, I missed you there earlier. We got, like, Dave, Real Big Monkey 1. We got Red Sand Adventures. We got Carl there. We got RM Shoots. We got Steve. They all have at least Google accounts. Maybe they're doing their own YouTube things. I know some of them are there, but I'm not gonna give any preference to anybody there. But definitely jump on, check out some of our, I don't know, what would you call it? Our circle, I guess. Look who we're subscribed to. That'll give you an idea how to get out there and start going. And then you just kind of dive down the rabbit hole. And before long, you're subscribed to hundreds of channels, getting tons of information being thrown at you every which and every direction.
Cohorts, maybe?
Cohorts, yes. I like that.
But yeah, no, I mean, it is a community. And we've always been here to support the community. Facebook, YouTube were definitely our starts. We did a lot of this straight through Facebook when it began. We found that had a little bit of a struggle, so we went into YouTube. But both of those, it's how we met is on Facebook. We've done a ton of stuff through YouTube. It's been awesome for us. We are also available on pretty well every podcasting platform known to man, and most of the ones that aren't. I was going to say,
I still get emails almost weekly that says, congratulations, you're ranked whatever on this podcasting site. And I'm like, I don't remember signing up that podcasting site. It's one of those things, once you start, it kind of takes on a life of its own, and you just start getting into the mix.
Yeah. Every now and then someone will ask me, how many followers do we have? And I do not have an answer. And I say like, Robert might have a clue.
Depends on what one you're going with. Honestly, if you look at Spotify, it could be thousands. If you look at, not YouTube, what's the Apple one? iTunes?
iTunes, yeah?
Yeah, iTunes podcast or Apple podcast or whatever it is. Each one has a different number, so I honestly have no idea of how to figure it out.
No. We used to try and track it. We are definitely not capable of doing it anymore.
Somebody smarter than me probably could do it in a heartbeat, but no, I can rub two sticks together and make fire, but I can't tell you what most of this stuff does.
All I know, I love doing it because it's fun, is you type in best Bushcraft podcasts, and we are ranked number 1
on several different lists.
Yeah.
And there's some up-and-comers there, and like I said, we don't tout ourselves as being the best ever. We're just another, the internet is a massive place, and we're just another drop in the bucket. So we do appreciate, like Red Sand Adventures there says, so I'm glad I stumbled across you guys. Love your show and appreciate all the information you both provide. For the handful of people that jump on here and talk to us, this is why we do it. We totally love giving out our random little stories and our information and crap like that, but we really enjoy interacting with you folks. So I highly encourage you, if you have the availability, usually 9 Atlantic Standard Time. Tonight we came on a little earlier, but somewhere between 8:30 Atlantic Standard Time and 9 Atlantic Standard Time is when we are setting this podcast up. Come on in, and I mean that just chat with us. We try to make the effort to come to every comment. If we don't come to it right away, it's probably because I'm going to bring it up later on. But we do try to make an effort, and we try to make an effort to say hi to everybody. We have people that come on. Who was it last week? I can't remember who it was. They came on, they said something, they didn't think we were going to talk to them. And like, we do try to make an effort. This is why we do it. We enjoy it. We don't get paid. It's for the love of it. So it is what it is.
Can't stress that enough. Nobody supports us, like financially.
We have no loyalties to any company yet. But yeah, it's honest opinions, good, bad, or otherwise. That's all they are at the end of the day. They're our opinions, our experiences, our suggestions. We still highly encourage everybody to get out there, do a little research on your own, formulate your own thoughts, your own opinions. We're just a stepping stone to help you get to your end game. And that's the way I always do look at this, and that's what I'm happy with on this, to be honest.
Anywho, I do have to run, unfortunately. So I'll be talking to you next week. And but yeah, everyone get out there, have fun. Check out some of these sites. Find some others. Share anything that you find like extremely helpful to us. We could potentially post that up on some of our event venues to allow people access to those too.
For sure. Night, everybody. See you next week.
Night all.